we're going to have our last presentation and also performance of the weekend, and I'm really excited for this. I've never seen a performance lecture before, so I'm very excited. Not to make Nancy more nervous.
No.
So anyway, without much more ado, Nancy will be presenting and performing Divination, a romantic mutiny in a maelstrom of data. So, Nancy, woo!
Thank you, Sarah. So, wow, it's the end of an amazing 3 days and of broad approaches to critical and alternative uses of networks. And I feel like I have a few hard acts to follow, that's for sure. But I thank you all here, and especially the RAD Networks team, for having me, and thank you all in the audience who were presenting workshops and talking, for your great sharing. Just a little bit about me and to contextualise my work, but first of all, a tiny pitch that I don't know if anyone's heard of ACM. It's the Association for Computer Machinery. It's actually based in New York. They run a few events, and one of them is Creativity and Cognition, which is going to be for the first time in Asia, in Singapore, and there's calls out, and I'm the art track chair for that, along with being assistant professor at the Communications and New Media Department, National University of Singapore, which is partially responsible for me being even able to come all this way. So I wanted to acknowledge that. So under various pseudonyms over the past 2 decades, I've collaborated on grassroots projects that actively work to found and stimulate collectives with the aim to infuse radical forms of open culture, and mainly in conservative and netlit and weakly networked regions. And that's alongside my practice as an artist, but often these intersect more and more these days. I'm driven by the demystification of technology, but also the remystification of that lie in and through the performance of the machinic assemblage. I always approach the computer as a theatre machine, and that's very important for me because my background is in performing arts, and that will never leave me. Over the past, 10 years, I've been a witness to a lot of network art using data mining tools, and this discussion was come up on the first day, replicating those of surveillance military strategies, almost, for me, reminiscent of naturalist realism. So that got me thinking, because I find that's quite a questionable way to look at things. On day one, Anish Patel asked, to what end does that approach serve? And I was reminded of this quote by Alain Robbe-Grillet, and although it's very much of its time, he does actually make a debate for art's sake, especially when he says we need to understand the current problems of our own language and be critical or understanding of their extreme importance, and the sole possibility of remaining an artist, and also, by no doubt, by means of some obscure and distant consequence of maybe one day being of some use, maybe even to the revolution. And this is one of my favourite essays, actually, and it's an argument for art's sake. As we all know well, the work of databases, algorithms and networks has become a central topic of public debate, and the much discussed Snowden global revelations may have temporarily masked the fact that espionage, surveillance and control is not new, although of course the scale and depth of its machination is unprecedented. And this particular word, revelations, is, to be sure, quite esoteric. And just as traditionally divination is a method of visualising events that are not immediately physically observable, which you can find traces of that practice across many different cultures through our planet. The event, the performance or the artwork that I want to talk about today is Divination, a romantic mutiny in a maelstrom of data, looks at such issues through a performative lens. And the work exploits these opt-in strategies of marketing and 21st century mass electronic surveillance programs. And it explores our relationships with these elusive forces, highlighting the ease of access to so-called private data, offering an alternative pirate view of the information we transmit. So operating the Wi-Fi network as a performance tool, the artwork interrupts the flow of user experience, illuminating uninformed consent strategies and what the data tempest means to us all for an audience that may not usually be encouraged to think critically about internet usage. So this work was recently premiered in June in Hobart, Tasmania. And if you have noticed on the Wi-Fi, it was only set up yesterday, there is a Pirate Girls Wi-Fi that you're welcome to opt in on here. And Divination had, well, you'll find this page if you go to the Wi-Fi, the Pirate Girls Wi-Fi or the website, and you're welcome to do that now if you like. Divination had several audience entry points, including an extensive standalone website and remote network participation, a captive portal via Wi-Fi registration on the website allows encounters with Pirate Girls, which were chatbots, to happen remotely for the duration of the work. In this case, at the festival, it was via email and text for those who had opted in and registered. And for those of you who have registered or have not or might be about to, you'll get an email, but you won't be spammed 3 times a day like the audience were for the festival, because I thought actually I'm preaching to the converted here. But your ship names may appear later in this presentation, so that's an added bonus. So, yeah. And the terms and conditions, the artwork consciously played into that and very much made that a reflexive part of the work. So the audience were leaving digital footprints in their wake, and these trails allowed the Pirate Girl chatbots to navigate their ship via the network traffic constellations, trawling aesthetically through a sea of data. And hopefully the audience, and it seems to be with some of the feedback, even found themselves trying to make sense of what is actually at stake when a networked entity, a non-human chatbot, masquerading as a pirate girl, is given control of their privacy. And here's just some of the feedback that you can see on the screen. So it was also a very playful and speculative platform for visitors to seriously consider what this data tempest means and contemplate also on the Delphic relationships they may have with networks, signals and codes that they cannot fully comprehend, but they and we all often opt into them. The audience feedback and network traffic inputs into the artwork, and I mean, you're seeing some of the stills here now. I wonder if the lights can come down a little bit, because some of the things that I'll project later are quite dark, if that's at all possible. I think, yeah. So the audience feedback and network traffic inputs into the artwork, the installation you can see here, and the exchanges are poetically remixed, and the Pirate Girl performance, these encounters with the non-human chatbots when participants opted in, at the free access points operating at the festival and also throughout the central business district of Hobart, Tasmania. And if you don't know where that is, it's an island down the bottom of Australia. So all in all, 1,584 people registered for the Pirate Girl performance, and that began before the festival and kept going for those 3 weeks. So the maiden voyage of the artwork was a 40-minute performance on the opening night of the festival. And not everyone could get in seats, but an audience of 138 people was chaperoned by human and non-human pirate girls through an energetic collision of sea shanties, nautical mythology, computer culture and transgressive fiction. The venue was set up as a 21st century Dada Wi-Fi salon with a central shipwreck performance stage, including a scripted performance and songs executed by the Pirate Queen, myself, a narrator called Jim Woff, and there were treasure chests with screens scrolling the terms and conditions accepted by registered participants, real-time text-based visuals generated from network data projected onto the hull of the shipwreck, evocative of the sea, and onto the suspended sails. Also as star constellations for navigating, but also showing that network traffic and the interaction of the audience with the Pirate Girl chatbots. So after the maiden voyage, there was an installation. Divination transitioned after the opening performance. The installation incorporated a shipwreck, sparkling voodoo flags, treasure chests with screens scrolling the terms and conditions still, and a soundscape and real-time text-based visuals generated by audience network traffic projected onto the hull of the shipwreck and onto the suspended sails and a lighting design. So it was very much a theatre piece in one sense as well. So in total, at this festival, 76,260 people visited Dark Mofo, which was the festival, and this particular thing was called a Dark Park during those 3 weeks. So this is a map of Hobart, Tasmania, the central business district. And using a distributed network of Wi-Fi access points and social media bots, the artwork collected information about its audience and generated this audio-visual performative experience. And it was built by a crew, including Danya Vasiliev, who's in the audience tonight, who's now moved on to another Cosmic Berlin. So if you're ever looking for someone to do such a thing, you know, Alexei Blinyov, who's a very, I don't know what you'd say, I was going to say ancestral hacker, but no, like next, an elder, a respected elder. Huh? It was very great to have him on board. Because obviously, I mean, I'm not going to go into this tonight, but as a woman also working with these tools and concepts, there was a lot of resistance, because boys don't like you playing with their toys, the resistance from the local hackers. Anyway, we won't go into that. Too long a conversation. Anyway, using OpenRT custom firmware modified this captive portal, which is called Wi-Fi Dog, which I only know from Danya anyway. WebSockets, JSON streaming for pure data, which was developed by Nick Smithies, operating remotely and in consultation with Nick Smithies as the technical producer and sound composition, and Matt Daniels. So, you know, I'm saying all this because it was a big crew, right? It's just not, you know, only me running around. The intricate technology employed and the relatively straightforward way that it functioned was a testament to all those crew involved in its development and execution and their commitment to the project. And I'm very thankful for that. But the project is still very much in progress, and it was presented as a premiere, but it was really like a pilot. And much was learnt from the premiere, which will inform subsequent iterations, but the biggest challenge faced During the project, context was not having a rehearsal space to test these complex technical aspects of a new large-scale work. So the lead-in time available to the project during the installation at Dark Park, it would have been sufficient for an already touring project, which as a monster mainstream festival mainly got touring projects already formed. But as a new work created for the festival, it was difficult to communicate the intricacy of the project within this mainstream festival program format. And the importance of connecting with the project online and through the project website were not really made explicit in the festival material. So communicating the complexities of this more remote online computer culture aspect to an audience that's not necessarily au fait with it, like all of you are, or a lot of you are, was a challenge. And in retrospect, we could have made mechanisms for engagement more simpler and clearer. Instead of the registration forms you might see, if some of you have logged on to the Pirate Girl Network, maybe we'll do fingerprinting or, I don't know, something like that in the future, and something that is more relevant. So going back to the why do this project, it's about recontextualising mythology and the realities of navigating big data by positing the motive of pirate and piracy as a positive strategy in the present day. And it was actually inspired by historical women pirates whose knowledges aren't very well circulated, such as the 17th century Anglo-Irish Gracie O'Malley, and formidable Chinese pirate queen Xin Sei, who was from 1775 and died in 1844, and especially Tasmania's extraordinary Charlotte Badger, who was born 1788 and died in 1820, who was also the first Australian female pirate and the first European woman to live permanently in New Zealand, and subsequently she learnt Maori and so forth. So inspired by these women and wanting to share their stories, but not in a colonial sense, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of colonial theatre in Tasmania reenacting history plays, and that's not what I was interested in either. But I think it also is important to circulate their knowledge. So some of the chatbot corpus was using some of their texts, as, along with anarchist women texts as well. So in this immersive process, the audiences of Divination were led to the buried treasure, to the knowledge, perhaps something that we already subliminally knew. The treasure, value beyond belief, resides in the immaterial world, or the immaterial forces that we cannot see, and that these networks are not simply habituated and benign as many of us might think. So that was more the reporting side of the project, and I thought that since we've had a long 3 days, that now we'll just move on to a bit more beta wave vibe, and I will now move into sharing some of the narrative and the poetry that went with the performance and aspects of the performance and aspects of some of that audio visual that was generated. So, just shifting your mind a bit. And one moment while I change over, please. And I'm very happy for feedback after in person, because I know it's been a long 3 days. One moment. Oh, thank you. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Thanks. So tonight we venture out on a maiden voyage. Admittedly a gift I had to hustle for and through questionable circumstances. But whatever the case, this is the opportunity to express mutinous sentiments. So some people say that there are no pirates anymore. So we have to be crooked as hell in order to exist. And we are existing. But wherever there may be sea, there be pirates in it. The sea is chaos. The air is filled with lies. Land erodes and fire is constant. Trust is golden and the only real treasure lies on no map. Oh, pirate girls of the ancient sea, tear me apart, going from east and west. Scratch bloody trails with your cutlass whips and friendly, swearing, gambling and looting my itch to give into your fury. The only real treasure lies on no map. Do we know who wrote the map that we're following? Are pirate girls uncivilised and dangerous? Are pirate girls a ruthless class of ruffians? Their ships are havens for salty sea dogs, degenerates, and they survive as fugitives. Pirates are the destroyers of all obstacles. Their direction of floating, their buried treasure, is hidden in caves in the centre of labyrinths. Kathy Acker once said that in her book, Pussy, King of the Pirates. I didn't actually get to meet her, but in fact she appears often, signalling white flags to me in my dreams, sometimes only in the shadows, holding a moon. But I may know who she really is now. The Pirate Queen. The Pirate Queen was very much out of place in a man's world of warfare and politics. Beyond the pale, skilled In the art of sailing, the formidable governance of barbarous crews, the pursuit and looting of majestic ships on the high seas. The profession of piracy wasn't for anyone. You practice it with dignity and courage. On the days of combat, Pirate Queen and her crew mixed gunpowder with their liquor. Motley and wild, her crew was made up from members of different clans, each bearing tribal grudges. But she moulded them into her crew, loyal only to her. So proud was the Pirate Queen that she said she'd rather fight alongside them than have a ship full of gold. A tough lady, more than happy to wade into combat, she gave birth on the high seas during a trading expedition to the Pacific. The next day, the word came down that the vessel was under attack by Turkish pirates, and she immediately put Bub aside and grabbed her sabre and ran out in command in defence of her ship. On one occasion, a local imperialist earl refused to let Pirate Queen in when she decided to sail by and stop for dinner. So she kidnapped his son, held him for ransom, only returning him when the earl decided he'd cook her some bacon and leave an extra place setting out for her for the rest of his life, just in case she ever decided to show up again. A tradition the family maintains is ongoing to this day. An expert in arcane knowledge, numerology, astrology, alchemy, Gnostic magic, ancient texts and codes, Pirate Queen was also a noted gambler and could play at politics when it suited her. There might have been more darker reasons for this. In times of great transitions, local customs are encroached on by intimidating empires. My weary body was so heavy that my mind started wandering so freely. I thought about the sea I had never seen. My eyes closed, but I wasn't asleep yet. I tried to picture the sea and how I thought it had never ended. I would have liked to contemplate something as even and endless as my own weariness. Stars, breathing, reeling, flying. The Pirate Queen navigates by the stars, the great river in the sky. Our ancestors light the campfires there to show us the way. I pulled out my empty pockets. I caught myself opening every door where I could dive inside. I raised the white flag along the shore. Winds, waves, ships, high tides, top sails, pirates, my soul, blood, the air, the salty air. I became a river of feeling. While pirates used the red or bloody flag, as well as black flags, there was a distinction between the two. Pirates gave quarter beneath the black flag, while no quarter was given beneath the red flag. Black, no mercy, back down while you can. Red, now you're completely in trouble. While white meant surrender, it could also be used as a strategy to lure enemies, a false colour of deception. When the pirate queen's intended victim was within range, instead of the white flag, the red Jolly Roger would be raised simultaneously with a warning shot. Bang. But there's other meanings, curiously unexplained. Independent of imperialist rule, the pirate queens, her comrades and allies, used their own secret codes of conduct. Ciphers were used to channel messages from one remote entity to another via mirrors. Flags with embroidered mirrors reflecting light in order to transmit signals over a distance to other presences. Having the functions of ciphers and intermediaries, such cryptography and transmissions of messages to other dimensions also had much to do with spirits, invocations, extending from the utilitarian methods of encipherment. While Pirate Queen used enciphered messages to share her route plans with allies, other more divine messages were clandestine transmitted along with the enciphered messages for those who knew. Therefore, navigation with mirror signals were developed and applied to codified signalling systems for the Pirate Queen, her comrades and allies, along with this other more extraterrestrial communication. Powerful mirrors, specially constructed, could be used for drawing magical power from the sun and the moon to transmit messages and objects to the stars and other worlds. Quite a radical network. The mirrors on her flags were made from obsidian to catch and absorb the sun and moon rays. These stones would retain these energies and could be used long afterwards, for instance, to heal the crew when in need. Intrigue, espionage, intelligence gathering by means of decoding and harvesting remote information continues today. We've been talking about it all day, for the last 3 days. But in the realm of the Pirate Queen, the most valuable type of divination was devoted to the realm of divinity via the sky and other signals through the ether. collecting personal data, uninformed consent strategies, stars are wireless signals, meteorological stations, flashes discharge, and the poetic cosmic cosmos orbots, and the open ocean crashes onto the world. Dreams with their own logic and syntax. Secrets that can never be completely explained. As always, there are flashes of enlightenment, a network of electric world jobs. Whistleblowing, human harvesting, and such revelations suddenly jolted the world awake from a private life lay bared. Vast scopes of surveillance programs emitted by every cell phone, computer, electronic devices, and this isle is full of noises and sounds and sweet airs that give delight. Sometimes 1,000 twinkling instruments will hum about my ears, and sometimes voices. So Pirate Queen thrived outside the safety of the Pale. A legendary exception, the Pirate Queen could swear, gamble and loot with the best of them. She divided all her treasure evenly with the crew, but there were strict codes on board and the crew must abide. Not the least thing shall be taken privately from the stolen and plundered goods. All goods shall be registered and the pirate receives for themselves 1 out of 10 parts. Out of 10 parts, only 2, 8 parts belong to the storehouse, the repository called the Commons or the General Fund. Taking anything out of this General Fund without permission shall be death. If any man goes privately on shore or what is called transgressing the bars, he shall be taken and his ears perforated in the presence of the whole crew, repeating the same death. No person shall debauch at his pleasure captive women taken in the villages or open spaces and brought on board a ship. He must first request the ship's purser for permission and then go aside into the ship's hold. To use any violence against women without permission is just punishment by death immediately. But to drink victory, red wine, superstitions, marked cards, loaded dice, rum and an opium pipe filled the idle hours. Swords and sabres were the weapon of choice. I usually have like 3 sails there ready for me. Anyway, their knowledge akin to the transcendental, before boarding, her pirates would sprinkle their cheeks and bodies with garlic water, a sure charm against injury by fire breathed by muzzles. The fight for vengeance, the love of sea flow at the stroke of a sabre, the life of a foe. Only shed blood where another shed tears. The love of battle. The pirate girls, the itch to do something illegal and savage, the itch to do abominable things like an abstract rut gnawing at our fragile bodies. Fever's burning, nothing is true and everything is permitted. Everything sings itself into a scream. The ocean must be built from a common law which says that everything goes into the ocean, that lines and lines like these swell the sea and grow like seaweed, but unless you can see the tangled knotted mass, it is merely dirty water. So, personal data is the new treasure. Are we being sold back to ourselves? Harvested? What is this unnecessary cannibalism? Caught off guard, the Pirate Queen's only child was captured by the Imperialists, her sworn enemy. To retrieve her in return, the Pirate Queen agreed to give her over her most powerful, rare obsidian mirror to stop the supporting radicals, and was enticed into a sordid deal to be intelligencer for the Imperialists in regard to the rebellions. Her daughter was released, but the mirrors, the obsidian mirrors on her largest obsidian flag, was not. As she withdrew her support for the rebels, outnumbered, thinking they may have her protection, her crew began to lose respect. Being able to decrypt the messages, the Imperialists started moving into lands beyond the Pale. And this wasn't part of the deal. The Pirate Queen, considering their agreement to be void, went back to her rebellious ways, but she could not recover the loyalty of her clan's allegiance. Her shifting loyalties had set clan against clan. With few crew left, she led into mutiny. Almost 1,000 ships did battle, from sunup to sundown. A mixed chorus of bells, drums, cannon bursts, curses, gongs, prophecies accompanied the action. But her ship was destroyed, and Pirate Queen found occasion to exercise neither mercy forbidden her nor the cruelty to which she was exhorted. She herself performed a ritual which her own defeated crew could never forgive. In absolute truth, she put out the white flag. But white is also an absence of her history. A heinous scene at the shipwreck, in which desperate survivors racked by conscience realise that the provisions are insufficient to take the tragic but necessary decision to sacrifice the wounded. The shipwreck sticking to the reef, the moment when the tow ropes were cast off and the ship abandoned, the self-protective mass murder, the survivors up to their knees, their waists, their necks in water. She surrendered, her loyal crew gone, and these recent global surveillance revelations may have temporarily masked the fact that imperial espionage, surveillance and control is not new. But is this why? The necessary cannibalism, the mutiny in the night. Let me gloriously assume the submissive role in bloody happenings and long drawn-out sensual abandon. Fall on me like heavy waves as I lie broken in small conscious pieces, and spill me across decks and scatter me overseas and leave me on the island's greedy beaches. Gratify me all your mystical desire. Make me the cesspool of your scorn. The shipwreck became a painting, a story, a play, a song. And if I have awakened, then sleep will let me sleep again. And finally, I'm back into dreaming. The clouds open and show riches ready to drop on me. I cry to dream again. Our revels have now ended. Thank you. Now you can party.
All right, so that concludes, well, sort of. We still are going to have Rosa Maekman, who came all the way here from the Netherlands to do visuals for us, live visuals with Matthew DJing in the back. So please stick around. We have a bar. Yeah, but Nancy wraps up a weekend of presentations, gallery exhibit, workshops. Thank you again so much to everyone who helped. My co-organizers, Amelia and Erica, Laura at iBeam, all of iBeam, Chemistry for giving us the space for building out an amazing set. To the Internet Society and Jolly for doing the live stream all weekend. Again, thank you so much. Our other partners elsewhere, Cafe Grumpy, Money Positive, the volunteers. I don't know, so many people. Danya for helping. Seza, if you're listening, for staying with my baby, or our baby, Sasha. So yeah, thank you to everyone for coming. And we're going to do this again next year. And also going forward, I'm planning on actually having more Radical Networks events and programs and workshops and things throughout the year. All sorts of things I can't even talk about yet because they're secrets, but they're good secrets, and I hope to make them happen. So please stay tuned. Thanks again for coming, and please stick around for some drinks and some music and visuals. And thank you.
Spacebop, frag nicht warum. Spacebop, frag nicht woher. Spacebop, sag nicht wozu. Spacebop, er ist einfach da. Spacebop, komm und steig ein. Spacebop, Rodeln ist toll. Spacebop, die Milchstraße längs. Spacebop, er ist einfach